Because he dipped out on the show with no notice. He was just like, I overslept. And we're like, bro, are you kidding me?
If you're listening, hey, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Sorry, Kevin. Yeah,
Yeah, you would have a name like Kevin, bro. I watched Ed and Eddie.
That's so true. Dork.
That should have been your
Dork.
first sign not to hire him. You should have been like, fuck this dude, bro. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the DP Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Pinto. And on this podcast, I have an artist that I actually worked for, and I'm actually very fortunate enough to have seen his growth as not only as a musician, but as an artist, seeing him develop his sound and go from a very emo punk rock sound to more soul pop sound, I would say. And his name is Tre Nixon. And in this podcast, we actually talk about his upbringing, growing up with a single mother, his hardships. We talk about how he developed his sound, what changed. We talk about gigs that we did together, our experiences together. But I really enjoyed our conversation. I really think this is a great episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the DP Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Pinto. And with me today to double penetrate your skull through both ear holes is an artist that I actually played for a few years back and would love to continue working with. He's gone as Fake the Artist, Fake in the Soul Aesthetic, and he is currently going as Tre Nixon as his name on his birth certificate.
Yes.
So without further ado, let me introduce Tre Nixon. What's
Hello.
good, bro?
Not much, man. I'm doing great. How about you?
Man, just another day in paradise, you know?
Love it.
So, man, like, you know, when I first met you, one of the things that intrigued me about you was the fact that when you came to LA, you were living in your car.
Yes, that is true.
You know? So, man, let's just start with your whole musical journey because I think I started playing with you around, like 2017?
2017, 2018, yeah.
Yeah, this was back when you were like just Fake the Artist.
Yes.
And so what led up to you even coming from LA? Where are you originally from?
I'm from San Jose, California, so the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what started your musical interest or anything? Was your family musical or?
Yeah, so my family wasn't too musical. The only person who played music was my grandfather, and he was really into Johnny Cash. My grandparents actually had dinner with Johnny Cash and June Carter.
What?
Yeah, it was super cool. That was very fun.
Were you there?
Fun fact. I was not. No. It was a long time ago.
Dang, how were they even invited for that? Do you know the story?
I don't really know the story. That's the thing. It's like I was too young to really understand. They told me about it, and then I was too young to really understand who they were. And then they passed away, and then like I just know that that's a fact, but I don't know the whole story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue on with your story from there.
Yeah. So my grandfather, he passed down his guitar to me. His acoustic guitar, which is my most prized possession. I still have it, and I still play it every day. So yeah, I kind of just taught myself, and I really got into the band that got me into music was Green Day. That was the very first band that I was like, oh, I saw them, and I was like, that's it. That's like.
So were you in elementary school? Because I remember Green Day was very popular when I was about like 3rd to 6th grade.
Yeah, no. So I discovered him in like middle school, like 6th grade, and then I remember there was this three.
So what year? Around like 2002, 3?
Yeah, I would say 2003. I was born in 94, so yeah, probably 2003, 2004, maybe.
Yeah, because I was born the same year, so yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I would say that. And then I saw this band play at my like my middle school lunch, and I remember it was this 3-piece band. I can still picture it, and like I thought they were the coolest fucking people in the face of the planet. I was like, this is so cool, and they're only playing to a bunch of little like 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but like they were high schoolers, and they were just like I don't know, just like them playing was just like one of the coolest things. And I think they did a couple of Green Day covers, and then that's when I first started getting into like punk rock music and stuff. And yeah, I started listening to a lot of punk, a lot of like emo kind of stuff, and that's what really started my musical journey, where I was just like, oh, this is what I want to do. And go ahead.
But what was playing around in your home prior to that? Was there
nothing really, honestly. No one like before that. It was mostly hip hop and rap. My brother. It's funny because my half brother he's fully white, and I'm closest to like, cause I'm half black, half white, and I'm closer to my mom's side, which is like my white side, and they were all really into like, hip hop and like stuff like that, like 50
Interesting.
Cent, Tech Nine. Like my uncle was really into that. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of what I was always around, just like hip hop and stuff. So like before the punk rock phase, I was really into like 50 Cent was my idol. And I would
Really?
like, yeah, like shave my head and
Hey,
wore
Shoy.
do rags. I'm like, exactly. I'm like 11 years old, like wearing do rags with my shaved head. And yeah, I own the Get Rich or Die Trying album. That was one of my favorite albums. That one
Shit.
and The Massacre. I don't know why my parents let me listen to it at like 11, 12 years old, but
So when you listened to Green Day, was it like the spunk and just the aggressive nature to it? It was just a different flavor that you were like, yo, this is the vibe.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it just, I think it was just the rawness and just like the fact that I don't know, with rap I never felt like I had like my own voice, but with that I felt like I could do that. Cuz it's like, when you listen to Billy Joe, it's like he's not like the best singer, but he's just an original singer. Like no one has that voice. You don't want to hear anyone do a Green Day song other than Green Day. And I think I kind of internally like realized that, and I was like, "Oh, if I can find my own voice, I can do it."
Right.
So.
That makes sense. So when you heard the band, were you thinking, okay, that's what I want to do. I need to start learning an instrument.
Yeah, I don't think it was that like clear cut, because when you're a kid, you don't know what. I don't know. For me, I was just like, oh, that's what I want to do. So then I first want to play drums, and like when I started idolizing like Green Day and everything, I wanted to. My name's Tre, and like Tre Cool. So I wanted to play the drums. That was my first instrument. So I got a little like first act drum kit for Christmas, and then I realized I had no drumming talent. Could not play the drums.
You're like, this is not it. My limbs, my hand coordination is not.
I still can't separate the legs, and like I'm a little better now, but it's so difficult.
I'm in the same boat, bro.
Yeah. So then I ended up. It's actually funny. So I kind of like gave up a little bit, and when I was in middle school, that's when I was really into like anime. So I got really into anime, and I was really into card games, like professional card games and stuff, like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And,
the ones that are always changing every year and different rules.
Yeah, exactly.
For the listeners, for the people listening.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, we basically I ended up like tail end of middle school. I got really it was weird because I would go to card game tournaments and stuff, like my local card game tournaments, and I was like this 14-year-old kid at this point, and I was playing with 21, like 30-year-old dudes, like these like Asian dudes who are like really good, like Yu-Gi-Oh. I was mostly into Naruto. Naruto was a card game, yeah. So that was like my main one that I was really good at. I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh.
I had a starter deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Low key, that's like a little behind the scenes for me.
You're right, dude. That game was fun. So yeah, but it was weird because I was getting like really good, and I was like this little like Naruto CCG prodigy, and then I ended up winning a lot of winning and like placing high in a lot of the like regional tournaments that were like held at like anime conventions and stuff like that. So I was able to like pay for myself to like fly. So I haven't been a lot of places in the U.S., but I've been here, Vegas, New York, and Indianapolis. And the only reason I went to Indianapolis was when I was like 15. I won so many local tournaments that I was able to like pay for myself to fly to Indianapolis to play in the world tournament. That's it. I have a weird family who just like didn't really give a shit what I did. They were just like, oh, he's paying for it. Whatever.
He's like, he's an adult now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like 15-year-old.
So you flew by yourself?
I went with my card game friends who were like these literally. It's like I'm 26 now, so I think about it and I'm like, I could not hang out with a fucking 15-year-old. So I'm like, so I look back and I'm like, how are these guys hanging out with me? But yeah, no, they I would go with them, and I stayed like in a hotel with like a bunch of these fucking my card game friends, and like I played in the world tournament, and I played Bleach at that time too. I don't know if you know the anime.
I know
Bleach.
the anime. I've never watched it, but I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they also had there was a Bleach card game too, and I didn't place in the Naruto tournament, but the convention was called Gen Con Indy, which is like the biggest. It was the biggest gaming convention at the time.
Really?
Yeah, with like card games, like it's very similar to like Comic-Con.
Okay.
Yeah, but for more like card games, board games, stuff like that. So yeah, that was in Indianapolis, and yeah, I placed third in the Bleach tournament, and I won a Wii. Like I won a Wii
Damn.
when it first like came out.
Yeah.
Where it was like hype as fuck
Yeah,
to
when
win
it
a
was
Wii.
the best-selling console, you're
Yeah.
like, yo, Mario Galaxy, what's good?
Exactly. So yeah, no, it was a weird time, but like during that period, I'd stopped playing. Like I wasn't really into music, and then I got back into music around like my freshman sophomore year of high school.
Now, what were you listening to at the time? Were you just like, oh, I'm gonna listen to like more anime music, or
I was so into like Japanese.
So you were
pop.
all in.
I was all in.
What brought you out of the abyss?
the anime abyss.
It's a deep hole, bro.
It is.
It's hard to
bro.
get out once you win.
It's very true. Yeah, it's funny. I just I made my girlfriend watch Death Note. We've been watching it.
Yo, guess what?
What?
I'm making my girlfriend watch Death Note as we speak. We're on like episode 14.
Dude,
I was like,
we're
look,
on 32.
yeah. She's like, I hate anime, and I'm like, look, if there's any anime to watch, Death Note is the only one. Look, people
100.
listening, you don't know how many people I've turned on to anime, or not even turned on to anime, but had them watch or give anime a try because I said, hey, look, just watch Death Note. It's not the typical
It's
anime
not.
thing. It may have some of those anime tropes, but it's not in your face like, oh my god, so cheesy. It's really
is
well
just
done.
insane. Like the writing, the story, the moral dilemma that you have to kind of deal with when you're thinking about it. Like who's right, who's wrong. You know, we can dive real deep into Death Note, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's
my
so
girl's
funny.
super in it, and I was
yeah,
like,
right.
yeah.
My girl did it too.
And she's like, I can't believe you turned me on to anime.
Dude, Death Note's the one, man.
That-
yeah, I read the manga before I
Really?
watched the anime. Yeah.
I watched it years later after it came out because I've never been huge into anime,
Yeah.
or deep into it because I grew up on Toonami, you know, as many kids
sure.
in our generation did.
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop, Gundam, G
fucking
Gundam,
Yeah.
you know, Dragon Ball, of course. That's my stuff. You know, as you know, if you, for those listening, if you're Mexican or Latino, you know that Dragon Ball is life, especially when you go to Mexico. I've never seen any culture embrace anime or Japan like to that level because they love Dragon Ball more than the Japanese.
That's
know,
crazy.
Like when Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, dies, Mexico's gonna have a whole day. It's gonna be a
like
national
when Kobe,
holiday
man.
type thing, man.
For real.
But sorry. So continue. So you're now in high school, and so who kind of started showing you other things?
So yeah, I had an old friend. His name was Nick, and he basically we were in. It's a very very weird and racist way how I got back into music, but basically, he was also playing like he would go to tournaments and stuff, and I would kind of like help him out with like decks and stuff, and he was a little bit older than me, but. Being like, oh, yo, I'm trying to practice. Do you want to go back to like like my place and we can like just like scrim and stuff? And I was like, yeah, for sure, for like tournaments. And then he was like, yeah, I'm also trying to start a band.
Matches.
Yeah, like practice matches and stuff.
Just for the people listening.
Absolutely. Yes, using all these gaming terms. Yeah, and then we ended up going and we would like hang out and stuff and we became like really good friends. And then we ended up, he was like, yo, Trey, so I'm trying to start this band and like we need a bass player and like you're black, you can play bass, bro. And I was like, bro, I cannot play bass. And like I had not like really touched music. And then he was just like, bro, you're black, you can play bass. And I'm just like
no, I'm also half white.
I know, right? And then he had an extra bass, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And then I think the first song I learned was like, I think it was like First Date by fucking Blink-182 or something. And I was like,
yeah, First Date's a good song.
This is pretty easy. It's just, I can kind of do this. So I started playing bass first, and then it was all like that punk rock stuff that's like super super easy to play.
And it's
but
great
fun.
for learning the instrument, getting those beginner things and being able to actually play a song and be in that environment.
Exactly. So I went to that, and it was cool. It was cool. And then I kind of really just once Naruto and like card games started kind of like losing interest as I got like deep, like got older, got more into high school. Music started to like really really take over, and then so just music started to take over. That's when I started really 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 getting into the whole like emo scene. I was a super emo kid in high school, like bad emo. Like
I feel like so many people were. I was fortunate enough to not go through that.
Yeah.
But I hung out with a lot of people that were because it was hard to get away from at that time. Everybody was emo. You had Avenged
MySpace,
Sevenfold,
yeah.
MySpace. Everybody was in that emo phase at that time. I can only imagine what parents were thinking. And
oh, bro, I cannot imagine. And that's the thing. It's like I was the first thing I did after I played bass and I learned how to play some instruments, but like I couldn't sing. I was really bad at singing. Like I was really, really, really bad. Like if you heard videos of me in high school, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that kid will never be able to fucking front a band or like sing a song, hold a tune." Like I was really tone deaf. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'll learn how to scream," because that was like what's popular, and I learned how to scream like really well. So in that whole post-hardcore genre, I was in a post-hardcore band called Defend the Outlaw.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
Okay.
You can still find that shit. It's like It's not the worst. It's not the worst for like a couple high school the kids and Johan, someone you previously had on your podcast. He was in that band too.
Was he playing keys in that band?
No,
or?
he was playing bass and singing.
What were you doing in that band?
I was just screaming.
Just screaming. just
screaming,
going.
bro.
Like, yo, I got these lungs. Let me put them to use.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was a cool learning experience.
And was that basically your whole high school right there? Was just developing that and just kind of being like, oh, this is my life now. It's just I'm getting into this emo thing. I'm around these people. Johan is a musician and a good one at that.
Oh yeah.
So it's like
he was way too good for what we were doing. Even at that age, he was.
Oh
way
really?
Too good. Oh,
I believe it. I believe it. He was good. Yeah. So then, what happens after high school?
Yeah. So basically, that was like probably one of the roughest points of my life because when I was during the whole like card game stuff, when I was like I believe I was 15, that's when my grandfather passed away, and I pretty much lived with my grandparents. They were basically my parents. Like my mom, I love her to death. She just was never able to really support me. And
financially, or just
financially, mostly financially. She would always, because she basically also like stayed with my grandparents and stuff. So like she didn't really have her own job and stuff, and I would never talk anything bad about my mother. I love her so much. But yeah, she just kind of also just had it rough, just in terms of just figuring life out, Yeah. So my dad was a piece of shit though. I'll say it straight up, dad piece of shit. But he also wasn't there. So it was
he left at an early age.
Yeah, he like left at an early age, and I'm fairly certain it's because during this whole crazy, emo anime transition, there was a point where I was really questioning my sexuality, and like I didn't really know if I was gay or straight or whatever, because you're a kid, you just don't know. And I think when he saw me doing more feminine things, he was just like, nah, fuck that. So
he just left because of that.
Yeah, so he dipped out, and then like
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, that's fine. It is what it is. But yeah, and then when I kind of like started coming into my own and like, realizing I realized I was straight in high school, and then I basically I realized I was straight in high school, and then he kind of came back in my life, but like he wasn't, and yeah, he just had a whole other.
He had his own shit to deal with at the time.
Yeah, and nothing to deal with, just a very not compassionate person for his only child, which was a very interesting thing to think, but I think
very selfish, self-centered dude.
Yeah, and it's like in the long run, I'm so grateful for it, just because I'm just like I now have the blueprint to be the best father ever because I know everything not to do. So when I'm a dad, like I'm gonna love my kid more than anything in the fucking world. So I'm very grateful for that sense.
My father had a very similar situation in the sense of his father was not compassionate. I mean, he said that he loved them just months before he passed. So my dad was when he had us was saying, hey, I'm gonna do the same thing and show as much love and compassion. And to an extent, I think he failed in some regards, but he did much better than his father had ever did for him.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it in that aspect too.
Absolutely. And I think for fatherhood, like I don't think anyone's ever prepared to be a fucking parent. Like that's the craziest. And that's the thing. It's like, that's also a big reason. Cause I was like a mistake child. I was like the product of a one night stand. So I wasn't supposed to be born.
Right.
And I'm just kind of like, when, now that I'm 26, I'm like, if that happened to me, but I had no idea if I had, because they both had very loving parents, like extremely loving parents. Like they literally lived with them until like they died, like they're both their parents, which is crazy. They just never had their own jobs. They never like did anything.
They hadn't had things figured out. So once you fell on their lap, they're like, well, shit, what do we do?
Exactly. So it's kind of like, I always try to put myself in that perspective of like, what would if I didn't have the knowledge that I know, and like all I knew was like pure love, I wouldn't feel the need to give this child love. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't think I would do that, but I'm not them. So I kind of can only take from my own experiences. So it's like, I don't really like, barter hate. I just know that when you need people to like kind of stay out of your life, you kind of just gotta, for your own well-being, you gotta just be like, yeah, I'm good.
Have you spoken with your mother at all to reconcile?
Yeah, no, I
this?
talked to my.
I'm sure. No,
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
and my mom.
I met her once.
Yeah.
You know, she, nice.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yes. Well,
That's crazy. I forgot about that.
yeah, when we shot a music video, we'll get to that though.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, she. No, I mean, we still talk all the time.
Yeah, no, you seem very friendly. Like I would have never guessed. You know.
Yeah, no, she's great. And that's the thing. It's like she was never able to give me anything like financially, but she gave me so much love. She loves me so much, and like that's all I ever wanted. And I think from my dad, it was like he had the opportunity to really, really like help me out, like financially, as like, you know, as a son, and like I didn't even want any
Just
of that.
mentor you. You know?
Exactly. I didn't even want any of that, and I was just like, yo, like all you had to do, like, and he didn't, but all I want is like I love you. I want you to call me on my birthday, you know, like he didn't call me on my birthday, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of shit. And I'm just like, those are the things I care about.
And was this affecting you growing up in high school? I mean, I'm sure it did.
Absolutely,
I mean, so do you think that helped kind of make you more comfortable into that emo? Because it seems like, hey, all these things are going in, and then you have this emo phase perfectly in line with what's going on. It's like, hey, like this is my lane.
Exactly.
You know, and you can find comfort in that in a community as fucked up as that is.
Absolutely. And I think it's a double-edged sword with that though, because it's like when after I got out of the whole emo phase and I really kind of started, I moved to LA. So I went to college. Basically, to leave off where I went to San Jose State.
Go ahead.
To leave off where we left at 15, my grandpa passed away from ALS, which is just like the scariest fucking disease I've ever seen. It's Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, I know. There's a famous guitarist named Jason Becker who has it. So yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah, that shit is just awful to watch, especially the child.
For the people listening, it's a disease. It's a debilitating disease where you basically just lose function of every muscle in your body.
Yeah, and like all your muscles atrophy and they just like deteriorate. Like my grandpa was like, I think he was like probably like 220-pound man, and he was like 90 pounds when he died. And like just to see that, and it was like within like 2 months, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, seeing that was super traumatizing. And then when I was 18, right when I graduated high school, my grandma passed away. So those were kind of like the people who were just so like just
integral to your life.
Exactly. So yeah, after that, I was just kind of like on my own. My mom couldn't support me. My mom was with my brother. My brother takes care of my mom, my brother and sister-in-law. So she couldn't take care of me. So, and my brother also couldn't take care of me. So I was just kind of like, what the fuck do I do? So the only thing I could do was I worked to get accepted into San Jose State. And then I just took out a shit ton of like student loans, and I was like, fuck, I mean, I guess. And then I lived on campus there. I went there for 3 years. The first year I was like, I'm going to do criminal justice because my uncle was a really, really bad human being. So I was like seeing a lot of like scary shit around him with like drugs and like just gang violence and shit.
But you weren't surrounded by that when you were with your grandparents.
So I was. So the thing is my grandparents were like kind of like what you were saying, like a little too like they were too loving. Like it's
they would sweep anything under the rug.
It's
kind of an old school mentality in a way. Like, oh, we'll like this is just a family issue. We just keep it away.
Kind of, but they were just like, this is no matter what, this is my son, so we're never gonna like
abandon him.
Exactly,
that makes sense. Yeah,
but it's hard because when it got to a point like my uncle would steal from them. I think he's ended up stealing at least like 50 grand from them while living with them, and like stole just like literally would just take my grandma's credit card, which is his mom, and just fucking like spend shit and like steal and like buy drugs and just withdraw money. She stole my mom's car once, just like
Jesus.
It was insane, and that's the thing. It's like they never once abandoned him, no matter how much he hurt them. And I think it really, really gave me this strange perspective.
Try to stay close to the mic so we can.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Just to keep the levels equal.
Absolutely. Sorry. No, you're good. It just gave me this really unique perspective of, I feel like, because I think I've been dealing with a lot of like weird abandonment issues in terms of like just like friends and like people who I thought would be in my life for like pretty much forever. And a lot of those people have like, we've gone separate ways. So I think seeing like my grandparents be able to still love and still care for someone so much, no matter how much they hurt them, is like, I don't know, it's just such an interesting, it's such a weird thing to deal with, because I feel like that's like like no matter how much like someone has hurt me, I feel like I can still forgive no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I get from them. But then I also feel like I feel like there's a point
Where you stop.
where you
say
have
no
to
more.
be like exactly because you're just getting hurt. So it's like, but then it's like till the day that they die, I can still know that like they were so selfless. You know what I mean? Like you can look up, they never ever abandoned their loved ones and the people they cared about, no matter how much they hurt them. And I think that really just shows like a different kind of character of like, I don't know if you can say it's like stupid and naive,
Yeah.
or you could be like they were just genuinely like they were the best human beings I'd ever had in my life. I've never seen to be able to like go through that kind of shit.
It's almost you have a very huge yin yang.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
So that's very interesting, man. Didn't know that. But so now you're in college
Mm-hmm.
and you're studying criminal law because of your background where you were surrounded by these negative influences and you're like, I want to make things right.
Yeah,
know?
and then I did like a semester of that, and I was like, "Fuck that." I was like, "Nah," because music was always once like I really got into music. I was like, "That's my passion. That's what I'm gonna do." I was always writing music. I like would practice guitar.
You didn't meet any musicians there?
Oh no, I met a budding musician. I was always in a band. Like I was
Okay.
always from fucking 14 to now. I've been in a band, so it's been like over a decade of being in different projects and being in different bands and. Every band being like, this is gonna be the band. This is the project that's gonna make it. This is the one that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting because I finally I went to school for 3 years, was playing a bunch of music, just learned a lot. I ended up switching from criminal justice to acting, and I ended up doing theater and doing a lot of like plays in college and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? Like the only two things I really enjoy are acting and music. So I'm gonna major in this. And then my third year of San Jose State, I decided I was gonna move to LA. Transferred to Cal State LA. And then I went there for a year and a half, but I kind of I didn't graduate because I got like fucked by the counselors. They were just like, oh, well, they told me a bunch of credits that I had were going to transfer. And then when I got there, like literally a semester, and they're like, oh yeah, all these credits they said were going to transfer, they're not going to transfer.
Jesus.
Yeah,
You had
I was
terrible
like,
counselors.
Yeah, I was like, are you kidding me, bro? That's insane. So, I was like already in. I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, this degree is not going to do anything regardless. I'm here. Fuck it. Like,
And you already had taken out these loans and
Exactly.
racked up the
debt,
student debt. Yeah. And as soon as you leave, you got to start paying.
not as soon as you leave, but like, yeah, it was like a
But
year.
but you know what I mean.
Ex-
Well, not as soon as you walk out, they're like, hey, thanks. But
Give me my fucking money. Yeah, no, definitely. It was kind of stressful, but I realized it's like I don't really regret anything because I don't know what I would have done. I met a lot of really like friends that I still talk to today. I met through college, and I think like I look back and I'm like I don't know what I could have done different because I would have been homeless. Like if I would have been like 18 and homeless, like I was living on campus and like paying for the campus dorm tuition or whatever with those loans because I had no money and have like a legit job. I was working. I got a job at Red Robin as a server at 18, and then I've just been serving ever since as like my side job.
and you get good money as tips,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you work and work, I'm super thankful and like grateful to be working where I'm at now. I work over at Beauty in Essex, and like I've met so many cool people there too.
So what made you want to take the leap to come to LA?
I just always knew I was gonna be here. I was like, this is the commitment you kind of have to make it in music or acting. I felt so just like, and that's where all of the other musicians, the talented musicians who were actually committed to doing it. Because like when you're in the Bay Area, like there's musicians, but they're not like, oh, I want to do this as a career.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
So you wanted to be in the environment.
Exactly.
So how old were you when you came, and under what circumstances were you here? Under like, okay, I'm here just with the car. I'm homeless, as we stated earlier, or what was the situation?
Yeah, no. So at this point, I get basically, I decided to move down with my old friend Nick, his girlfriend, my friend Joe, who I met, who's a videographer, and my friend JR. And we all moved down here and got like a house. It was like a small house in San Gabriel together. So the first year I was living in that, and I had my own room and that. Basically, after the year lease was up, Joe decided to move back to the Bay. Everyone else kind of just went their separate ways, and then I met this guy named Anthony, who is the producer of the album that I'm going to be releasing next year.
Mm-hmm. And Anthony had produced for, you can say,
I mean, no, he hadn't produced for any like super big artists, but like we met, and I was working with a bunch of other producers that I just didn't vibe with.
Okay.
And we met, and it was just like the way he viewed music and the way he viewed songwriting and his integrity in like he was the type of producer who was like, if you're not having a good vocal day, just don't come in, don't tell me. You don't need to pay me. I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna waste my time like recording like something that's not gonna be like the best it can be.
And how old were you at this time?
At this time, I was 22, 23, I want to say.
Okay. And did you have the idea of fake at that time?
Yeah. So I think that's when it first started. I was doing an EP with Anthony, and my friend Nick. Actually, yeah, we ended up. I don't know. I remember we were in like a Planet Fitness parking lot, and that was the parking lot that I slept in my car a lot. Because basically, I came up with that name, or we came up with the name or whatever. I was like, that's kind of cool. That sounds cool. Whatever. I was doing that, and then when that lease ran up, we decided everyone went their separate ways, and I started recording this EP, and I was like, either I can, and I was already working 2 serving jobs, and I was like, I could either pay rent and not do like this music, or I can live in my car for the next 3 months, save that rent money, and then do this EP and record this music. So I chose that. I was like, fuck it.
Yeah, all in or not.
Exactly. So, yeah, living in my car was it was definitely a fucking experience.
Were you showering at the gym, or?
I was.
I was like, that's what I would do. I've thought about it too. That's why I'm like, okay, well, how would I do this and that?
It's like I think like
laundromat, boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. 2-3 weeks is like like it's not the worst. 3 months is like. It gets depressing after a while. But yeah, but honestly, I was like probably the most productive I'd ever been, because like you don't want to, especially if it was like summer, like you don't want to like be in your car. It's fucking hot as shit. I just had blankets in my back seat. I would go to the gym pretty early in the morning, and then I would just go to Starbucks and just work. And I was also like still into, I don't really act anymore, but I was really still into acting. So I was also working for acting gigs and stuff like that. I was just doing like background work for like different film sets and stuff. And yeah, so it was cool.
So when you started working on the EP, what were you thinking? Okay, I'm gonna do the influences that I had in high school and start from there, or this was the image I had. Because when I met you, you were having different influences. So I want to know where that transition came in.
Absolutely. So the transition was so we were doing these songs, and then there was 5 songs on this EP, this Native Souls EP. And then after, there was one song I was working on that I wrote, and it was called Tyler the Ray. And Anthony, my producer, he was like, "This is a very Prince kind of song." And I was like, "Prince? Like what? I've heard of him, but I never really listened to him." And he was like, "Bro, you haven't listened to Prince?" And I was like, "No." And then he was like, "Bro, you gotta listen to Prince." And then I listened to Prince, and my life had changed. I was like, "Oh my God, this is everything just kind of like clicked." And I was just like, oh, that's everything I want to be as an artist, as a performer, as a musician. Like he's just everything, just
the
his
aesthetic, the essence, the aura, all of it.
Everything. And I was just like, wow, that's it. So then I really started diving into that. And then once I got into Prince, I started getting into like older music, like, like Whitney Houston, fucking like, like old Michael Jackson, like everything that like is like real music and not just like emo chords and emo lyrics. You know what I mean? Like that, it all hit me. I was like, oh my God, this makes me feel so good. And I feel like with emo music, the problem is that it makes you feel good, but only because you're feeling bad. You know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel good to like.
It just it accentuates the feelings you already have instead of creating new feelings.
Exactly. So it's like with you can't listen to "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5 and not smile. Like, and that's just like no matter what your mood is, you're just like, oh my God, because the music is so good. It's just so good. And so I really it was funny because I feel like I did a reverse thing. I know a lot of musicians, when I tell them this, they're like, wow, yeah, I grew up on like my dad's stuff, and like they showed me all the old stuff, and then I got into emo stuff and I got into what was popular. For me, it was backwards. I like went into this emo thing, and then like I discovered all of these, like all the 70s and the 80s, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And
no, I mean, I had a similar situation because I was not into emo music, but I was into metal.
Yeah.
Like 80s metal, neo metal.
Interesting.
So like Disturbed was like my band for that's
dude,
and I'm like, I saw them live,
Yeah.
So I'm like a little, embarrassed by it.
No
But I
way,
mean,
bro.
it helped
It's part of
helped
you.
make who I am, you know. But then, yeah, as you said, I started discovering other bands. For me, the band that really was the tipping point was the Beatles, but for you, it was Prince.
Yeah, and then I mean, even that's the thing. Even when I really started like that, my songwriting, I feel really went to another level when Anthony, he had the full Beatles songbook, like with all of the songs that were written. And
The White
recorded.
Book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own that one too.
Yeah, and I like went through that for like I think I had like a month where I was just trying to learn like all the Beatles songs and like see like how they use their chords and like how they like it's so interesting.
I did the same. Actually in that box behind you. That I'm pretty sure the book's in there.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that also just like changed my life and just in terms of like yeah, just really understanding real songwriting and the way to, you know, compose for yeah, I don't know. Just it's really made me.
But it never crossed
better
your mind
artist.
to get a professional, well, not professional, but an education in that or anything?
No,
Or
that's
just
the thing. I wish I did. I 100%
Instead of
wish.
going-
Instead,
yeah.
oh my god, if I think the one thing I would change if I could go back would be to instead of doing theater or criminal justice or whatever, just take it all music classes. If I spent those 3 to 4 years just doing music classes, even if I didn't graduate, that would have been so much more valuable to me than anything. So I definitely, I do wish I did that. And
Hindsight's 2020.
yeah, exactly. So it is what it is, you know. And I feel like, you know, maybe some songs I've written wouldn't have been written if I did that. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like you can't go back. There's only one.
Right. And you
Just
just
forward.
roll with the punches.
Exactly.
So then you release this EP. How's it do? Or what were you expecting? What were your expectations? Like, hey, I'm going to release an EP and make another album. What was the whole... What was your mindset at that time? Like, what's gonna be the future of what this fake and the artist or fake the artist is gonna?
That's
be?
the thing. I've never been one to. I know a lot of people. You know, they're always about the future. I've always been just kind of about the now. And I'm like, I'll figure out what I'm gonna do now, and hopefully, it works. And if it doesn't, I'll figure something else out. I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Not to say I don't plan, but I don't know. I kind of just thought, you know, right now I have to do this EP. That's what I have to do to get to whatever next step in my career or my, you know, my growth. I just have to do this. So I did that. It did decent in terms of just like, you know, being a brand new like artist, you know. And I got like a small following. It was really cool. You know, kids were like doing fan art of like my like diamond logo, and like it was really cool. I was doing like I really started from the bottom up and just started doing like a bunch of like Instagram live streams like all the time when that was like still cool. And then yeah, it was cool. I did get like a little fan base, and it was really nice, and it was crazy because like I look back now and I think those songs are like garbage, but I still like every once in a while will get messages. I got one recently that was like I still love like the Native Soul song. They're like, oh my god, I just love this, and I still listen to this like every day, and I'm just like that's crazy to me. Yeah, these kids were just you know they were really into these. It's crazy to me how subjective music can be. Like it's so subjective. Like no one like someone can think a song is complete trash, and another person could be like, "This song saved my life." And I think that's the beautiful thing about music is there's really no right or wrong when it comes down to it. Which is, I think there's good music and bad music.
It's like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but
Exactly.
to an extent, I guess you can say because. I mean, when you listen to music, it's like, oh, this sounds right because maybe it's something you're used to hearing. This is what is typical, maybe, but other people might not find it. So, like you said, it's subjective.
Exactly. So yeah, the EP did okay. I think I was like I said, I was super proud of it. And then after that is when I was like, I talked to Anthony, and he was like. I had a bunch of more songs written, and he was like, yeah. I was like, I really want to do an album, but I just didn't have the funds for it. So he ended up cutting me like a really good deal and was like, hey, if you do this and you want to put the real time and effort into making a real album, I'll go do it for half my rate, and we'll make something really special. And that's what we did. And then we spent 3.5 years really like writing, rewriting, working with different musicians, having session musicians. At that point, I was working like 3 jobs, working 3 jobs to pay for all this because I was paying for everything myself. I was paying for his studio time. I was paying for every single session musician I brought in. Because basically, what I would do is I'm not like a super professionally trained musician, but I'm the songwriter and I'm the big visionary for what I want the story to be. So I would write all these parts, and then I would hire session musicians who played their instrument for fucking their entire life to come in and just do their thing and put their flavor on it to make it sound to really take it to that next level.
So when did you start playing shows to promote this EP?
We played right after. I think that was like 2017. I want to say 2017. Like right after we did the EP, I was playing with a couple people. I was playing with my friend Mook and a couple other people, and we just played. We only played a couple shows. And then after that, it was kind of like, for me, I realized that it's really, really hard to like really have like to start building a community with only 5 songs, because it was a 5-song EP.
Well,
So,
I know I played a Halloween show with you. So
Yeah.
how far after that was that?
that was, I think that was the last show I played as like
Yeah, I think it was.
as like with that EP, and that was it.
Because I remember when I joined, I was brand new, and you had done a Craigslist ad that I answered to.
Dude, Craigslist bringing everybody together,
Right?
One of my
So-
best friends, Mookin, too. It's just like he was through Craigslist. Like when I first moved here, it's crazy.
Do you want to talk about that first gig though that we did and how atrociously it
Oh my
went?
god, that was the worst.
We were playing in Orange County, right?
I think so, yeah. It was
In Orange County for at like this small outside venue that had like a kind of an amphitheater, right? An outdoor
Yeah.
amphitheater, and then like they had a small stage on the outside where we were playing.
Yeah.
And we had backing tracks because we were just guitar, drums, and you, right? And
Yeah.
bass.
Bass, yeah.
Yeah. So, but we were playing with tracks, so your laptop had all the tracks.
Yeah.
And then the bass player who you hired ended up not even showing up.
Yeah, it was so bad.
And
So bad.
then the tracks that we
That's-
had
you'll-
did not work. And when they mic'd my guitar, the guy turned me down really low. And he told me to turn my guitar really low because he didn't want me being that loud. Because
Yeah.
the bands before us were just not the.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, whatever. And at this point, I had already been overseas. I already done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know what I'm doing. But these guys,
We're just like, yeah, they were on another level.
the
man.
audio engineers really threw us under the bus.
Yeah,
On
it
top
was-
of the laptop not working, all this. Anything that could have gone wrong did
Went
go wrong.
And it's super funny that it's so funny. So the bass player, the guy who I hired for bass, he literally hit me up recently he was like, "Hey man, you have me blocked on Facebook, but like, yeah, I was just like seeing if you wanted to give me some like critiques and stuff on like the stuff I've been working on." And I was like, why did I block him on Facebook? I completely forgot that was the reason
Yeah.
I blocked this guy on Facebook, because he dipped out on the show with no notice. He was just like, I overslept. And we're like, bro, are you kidding me?
And it was. I mean, he overslept, not like hours.
Yeah, it was like
The gig
4
was-
p.m.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like it was.
And we were there like all morning. We walked around. We chilled because it was in Orange County. So we're like, hey, we know the traffic's gonna be bad. And this guy,
It was next level, and it's so funny now that I remember.
if you're listening, hey, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Sorry, Kevin. That's not gonna say names, but sorry, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would have a name like Kevin, bro. I watched Ed and Eddie.
That's so true. Dork.
That should have been your
Dork.
first sign not to hire him. You should have been like, fuck this dude, bro.
Yeah, that's so funny. He was. Yeah, he.
And
was
your bass playing sucks. No, I'm not.
no.
I'm kidding. No shit talking.
No shit
I'm
talking,
kidding
no
about
shit
that.
No. But yeah, no hard.
Only good
feelings.
fun, bro.
Yeah.
I have no hard feelings for you. I
We're
really
just-
don't. I
we're
really
just
don't. I could
talking
care
shit.
less. This is just a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke, not a dick. Don't take it so
Yeah.
hard.
But yeah, that show was awful.
Yeah, it was atrocious. And so
We still pulled it out though. I mean, like we ended up
we
just basically
had a
playing
crowd
acoustic.
that were into it.
Yeah.
And then but then later after that, at least from what I recall, is you during that show and everything was when you were explaining to me, hey, this guy Prince, blah blah blah. I'm starting to get into this whole new thing. I want to make a brand new album, working with these people.
Yeah.
And you were asking me, I want you to be a part of it, blah blah. But
We were
anyways,
at Lucky Strike. Yeah, we were at Lucky Strike when I asked you, remember?
no. This was when you asked me to join Faking the Souls. This is when you were conceiving the idea.
Oh, okay.
Conceiving the idea before you had written any of the music. You were saying,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we talked about it at that show.
Yeah.
Because you were saying, hey, blah blah blah, all these ideas. I want to make this album.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this album's been in the works for years.
Years.
You know.
Yeah, we can listen to it after. It's pretty much done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
But so let's continue from there. So after that show, you're like, I'm gonna start working on this album?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I worked on a song. I don't know if you mind me naming the song.
Juicebox?
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
because that's before Lucky Strike. Because I went up to Beverly Hills to the guy who you just mentioned.
Yeah, Mookin, yeah.
Mookin.
Yeah, right.
And we started laying the groundworks for that first song, Juicebox,
Yeah.
and that was basically like the first jumping off point. But I know Kieran, because I went to China for most of the recording and ideas of that album, so I wasn't even there for all of this that's going down.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to talk from there to Lucky Strike. What was going on with the album? What were you working on? Because
it was just 1,000% committed to writing. I was just writing, recording, working with Anthony as much as I could, just really trying to figure out what songs fit on this record. I mean, that first song, I still really like that song, Juicebox. And I'm actually already working on the next record. So I think I have like 7 songs. I'm very confident, and like demos that I want for the next record. I think I want probably like 4 or 5 more to put on that one. But it's a very like indie rock, like a little bit more Beatles influence, a little bit more singly, and just like the songs are like, you hear like, oh, that's a single. I feel like on this first album, it's an album. It's like an album that you listen to front to back, and you're like, wow, that was a fucking journey. And like a lot of these songs are really different, but they all work cohesively, and they all really, they're this guy's story. They're this guy Tre's story, and like they're really genuine. They're very authentic, and I think, but I don't think it's a very like, oh, this is a hit single. You know what I mean? And but this next album that I do want Juicebox on is there's a lot of, I feel like, songs that are like, wow, that's really catchy, that's very singly. And I think once I started really listening to the Beatles and their songwriting, like, and the way they did things, it like really clicked for me on how to write like more single kind of S songs.
So what made you want to make the jump? Because at this point, when you're doing the EP, you're fake the artist, and then you start getting ideas to become fake in the soul aesthetic.
Yeah, so the soul aesthetic was I don't know, I just kind of randomly, I really liked, I was getting really into soul music, and it was like weird because like the music I was doing wasn't really soul, and I think it was this weird, it's ironic because I feel like, not ironic, it's just kind of funny how I feel like I was fake for all these years, and then I finally, once I finished this album, I really found out who I was, and I was like, oh, I don't need to be anything else that isn't me. Like, I can just be Tre. I can be who I really am. I don't have to be fake. Mm-hmm. And it really made me realize, like, why was I trying to be like fake the artist this whole time? You know what I mean? It was like, I had to be fake to find my real self, which was interesting. So I don't know.
Go full circle.
Yeah.
So then, you start making this band, and I know you had this huge idea behind it and everything Absolutely. You wanted to do. So how are you picking the members? How are you finding people? Because the original band was like 13 members. It was a lot of fucking people.
It was too many people. It was cool. I had very, very grandiose ideas. I was getting really into like James Brown and Rick James and like and Prince, and like they had all of these members, and they had like, there's a lot of horns on the record, not a crazy amount, but there's a good amount of horns on the record. There are a lot of background vocals, like female background vocals and stuff like that, and it was very, I don't know, I just saw all these things. I would see, I just really wanted to reach for the stars, you know? I really wanted to reach for the stars. So I would basically...
You're like Icarus trying to get too high to the sun.
Exactly, absolutely, I was.
And that's kind of what happened. It kind of fell apart.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, for me, I think a lot of these things happen for a reason. I mean, even if things like went fucking amazing, now we're in fucking COVID land, I'm like, well, that would have sucked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, is it better to have loved and lost than to never loved at all? So, but I mean, for me, during that time, I was just working with as many people who I felt were like super talented as possible, and like I think I learned more just doing that, more than I did in college, more than anything, just playing with these musicians who I really respected, and like, you know, really learning from their ideas, from you to Johan to like really just trying to do something like that, you know, to do something we're all, you know, Staples Center level. So that's something like, you know, the top tier musicians to do. And I still fully believe that at some point that's going to happen. But I just, you know, I don't know. I think it's very, I had all these ideas, and now I know how far you can go, and now I can just tone back.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the fake and the soul aesthetic, because I mean that's something I really wanted to get into with you.
Yeah.
Just because that's we both committed a lot of our time in there.
Absolutely.
And I mean the way I got in was I remember being on Instagram and looking at your Insta story and seeing that you were at Musicians Institute, and I was at Lucky Strike watching a show. I don't even remember who the hell I was watching, but
It's like a cover band, I think. I don't know.
I don't remember. Maybe a friend's band. I don't know. But I texted you saying, "Hey man, I'm actually at Lucky Strike. If you want to come hang," which was just down the street from Musicians Institute at the Highland Mall.
Yeah.
And so then you started talking to me and said, "Hey man, I got this band. I'd love for you to be a part of it." Blah blah blah. And I said, "Okay, let's try it out." And I was living in Bakersfield at the time.
Yeah.
And something you were doing was you were trying to weed out who doesn't want to be there or who did. And I was driving, and you were doing 2 rehearsals a night.
Yeah.
And so I would have to drive from Bakersfield. Like sometimes I'd come both days, sometimes I'd just come one day. But no matter what, I'd have to drive from Bakersfield to Musicians Institute where you rehearsed, because the bass player was or still is a teacher's assistant there.
Yes.
Leo, who was also on the podcast, Leo Vasquez, and shout out to him.
Shouts out, Leo. We love you.
It was good, bro. But then that became very strenuous for me, especially because I mean I never, because it's funny, I actually talked to Leo about it not too long ago, and he was like, "Yeah, man, none of us had any idea you were driving from Bakersfield until I think you mentioned it or something later, down the. I mean, I'd already made the trip so many times, and I was working at my dad's restaurant and doing gigs, so
it's a lot,
because I was living in Lancaster to do gigs, and then once the lease expired, everybody was going their own separate ways, and I was like, well, I don't know where to go, so I had to move back with my parents, and I was working at their restaurant and doing gigs. So that was actually very challenging for me, because it was like, so when we were doing all these rehearsals, and I'm like, hey, I'm new, I'm not gonna really put myself out there, because there were certain band members that just weren't I don't know, qualified or good enough to be in the band and be playing these things, which made things more difficult, more strenuous, so repetitive, and it started getting at people, because it's like we're doing so much and getting no results because we wanted to play shows. And I mean, you had musicians that were capable and some that were not capable, but they left.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very challenging on all of us, I think.
Absolutely.
Because I remember driving home and like sometimes crying, because I was just like, "This is so
sorry, bro.
This is so counterproductive, and it's just so much." And I'm like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was a very. I mean, kudos for you. I still cannot believe. I remember driving. I went to the Bay to see family. Like I was like, what? I think it was like earlier this year, and I passed Bakersfield, and I was like, "Hey, what the fuck? You drove this far?" I was like, it was like 2 hours in. I'm like, this is crazy.
Oh, I would do the drive an hour 20 minutes easy.
That's good. Speed racer over here.
Man, I was always on that.
But yeah, man, it was a very strange time, and I think because of that strain on you, it put obviously I was like, I guess the orchestra, like I had to orchestrate everything. So I was trying to plan, like, get everything together. And that's, it's hard as a one-man show, and not as a one-man show, but as someone who's like, not trying to like understands how much everyone else is committing their time and efforts, and like you more than anyone, to go through that and then try to, make sure there are results. But it's also like, it was so, but also like that being a completely new thing for me. Like obviously from the emo phase to doing all these other things to playing those first shows to finally kind of finding this groove of what works and what doesn't. And like in my head, I've always worked with musicians who are like low key garbage. So like we had to practice that much because they were bad. And then learning from that whole experience of like, if you're working with people who are good enough, they'll know their shit. You go in once, you rehearse once, and you're fine.
Right.
And I think that was something I never realized until, especially because there were, there was people who were like super good, and there were people who like weren't as good. So it was still taking that amount of time because of a little bit like, a little bit of dead weight in that project or in that process. So I think it was I feel like it was such a learning experience for me that I now know going forward of when I do work with people, like what to expect.
Yeah.
And then the second I see that like lack of, that lack of what needs to be there, you say, okay, we'll find something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. That's good that you learned all of that, man. And then we did end up playing a couple of shows, and I mean, we smashed. Especially like I remember we played a State Social House. What's it called?
We played a State Social when we played at El Cid. The Bolt show. Wait, were you at El Cid? You were El Cid too. Yeah.
And also the last show we did, which was last year in October, I believe it was at the Federal. So a year ago from
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that Federal show is when I started like breaking out. I think that's where we were all like, fuck, I don't know. For me mentally, I was just kind of
because at that point I said, man, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I think everybody was like, well, Daniel's leaving, and it's like, what's going on? Because it was already, it became a core, and it was just like, hey, we're still rehearsing so much, we're not getting that many gigs.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? And I know other band members were also showing this frustration when it came to rehearsals or, because you were kind of overworking us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, 100%. And there were no results.
Absolutely.
So it was just very tough on a lot of us. 100%. And I was just like getting very frustrated, especially you can understand after driving to Bakersfield, it's like, hey, I'm committing this much. And it's like, what's going on?
Absolutely. No, definitely. And I think for me, it was like, I think I was doing a lot of stuff prematurely because the album wasn't done. The album wasn't finished. So it was like this thing where we're playing these songs to people who like can't go back and listen to them. There's no album out. There's no record. Mm-hmm. So we
were expecting it to be out.
Exactly. And I thought it was going to be out, but like the amount of work it took to get it right, which, I'm glad I waited and like really took the time to get it to a point where I wanted to be.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you think at all, because I've thought this a lot, it's just, just release it, get it out. Like you have this album, just get it out, and then hey, let's work on the next thing. Because now I have these people. Let's work on the next thing, and just keep getting stuff out, and just keep refining it.
I think I really realized the right course for me in terms of this project was I understand where that anxiety came from, and I think that's where my anxiety was all the time. Where like I just want people to hear these songs, but after now hearing the final product, I'm like, wow, if I released this record beforehand, I would have been so mad. If I didn't have to, if I didn't get it to where it is now, I would not have been happy with it. I would not have been satisfied, and I would have pretty much just been disappointed in myself. And again, at this point, especially with like COVID, it's kind of like all these things happened, and it really slowed me down. Like when we're like finishing
also, you
up.
invested a lot of, not just time, but a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. I continue to. I still owe Anthony like at least like $1,200. It's like I still owe like, and I've literally spent just an insane amount of money on all this. But I think now because basically now that I have this kind of process that like I know works, I feel like the future record isn't going to cost as much as this one did. This one was so grandiose. Like I said, I was trying to go so much with like the horns and all of these session music and stuff like that. And again, at the end of the day, like I listened to it and I'm like, wow, I cannot believe like me and everyone involved in this created this. This is a really beautiful front to back thing, like story that it was created. And like I look back and like now I'm writing songs, and my songwriting is so much more developed where I'm like, oh, I can like write singles now. I can write these, like poppier indie, like, really like catchy, like relatable songs that I really still feel are very authentic. But I needed to tell that story first before I could do all these other things. I needed to tell that story.
Yeah. This is basically university for you then.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in terms of releasing stuff, I would much rather have two, especially with that's the thing with COVID now, I would rather have two complete albums that are like done. Because now it's like, what do I release it and then what do I do? Like,
just sit on your ass.
Just sit on my ass, like pay for a bunch of ads and hope people listen to it. It's like at this point, I would rather just like have this album, work on the next album, and then when things start to like come back to like somewhat normalcy and we're starting, can play those coffee exactly in a year. That means I can just take more time to create really good music. So I'd rather no one's been like set. If I go to a label and I'm like, oh, I have two complete albums done. We can release this album, and then you have another full album cycle that you can start planning right now. It doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather do that, especially in the time of COVID, than just release this and then have to do the whole process over again, where I'm trying to, get all these songs done and in like a specific time frame and like, like doing that stuff.
Right.
So I think that's kind of my plan now. And I've honestly like just talking about COVID, like it's really made me be able to appreciate other things in life, because nothing I'd always been like during that time, like that was that, like especially like when we were working, like my strain was like all I want to do is music. All I want to do, I wake up, I breathe this. How can I, you know, get how can I make this like a career? How can I start touring now? How can I start doing all these things? And when like COVID happened, I was like, wow, I can just live my life a little bit and not kill myself over this dream I've had since I was 13. You know what I mean? I can live my life and enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah.
So
it takes a little bit of the weight off your shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, it's definitely this. COVID's put everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're a musician or anything. It's put everything on over their feet. You know, I know plenty of people 20 years older than us that, hey, they were going to get a promotion at their job and move up and they didn't get it, or they lost their job that they were waiting for. You know, for example, Disney employees, you know, they're like, hey, I'm expecting the parks to open. And I was like, hey, they're going to fire people. That's what I was thinking from like since months ago. And sure enough, 28,000. And the email went out prior to November 1st, but November 1st was the deadline when they were going to release all the emails to everybody. I don't work at Disney, but I know people that do. And so they let me know. I mean, even Leo was telling me, you know, when COVID happened, they had a contract in downtown Disney to do a residency.
Yeah, I remember that.
Talks about it in the podcast if you guys want to listen to it. But he talks about how they were supposed to play until I think May or June. And since COVID was, you know, March, they were like, okay, well, Disney said we'll pay you for half for those shows, like half of what we owe you for those shows. You know, which is still nice. You know, Disney still looked out for them.
They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, so it's like, hey, they're not like the worst company or anything. It's just, hey, this is everybody's got to suffer.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think it's just trying to find the silver lining in it, because obviously, like when it first happened, my first realization wasn't, oh man, I can take a step back. It was, oh my God, what am I gonna do with my life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's exactly my thing. I was like, yo, music's dead. I had so many friends that were on tour in the middle of tours in Europe, or just starting to get their foot in the door, or they were already had their foot in the door. Now it's like, well, now what? You know? And even if you're the cream of the crop, you're gonna be making what, you know, someone who's like a C-list musician is making. You know? Yeah,
when it comes back. So it's crazy. I mean, that again, and I think for me, like just on your thing of just dropping stuff, I think now more than ever, I think it's better to just write the best music you can, get the best recordings you can, have an album, have another album, have fucking 3 albums. So when things are actually, when you can tour, people will be like, oh wow, I don't have to like live in the moment of the stress of like, oh God, I gotta write more. I can like really focus on like, you know, either getting better at my craft in terms of like, you know, playing or playing live, singing, whatever. And just already have that to give to the world or the labels or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of like my strategy and my plan for at least the next 2 records.
Yeah. And then one other thing we did is we did 2 music videos.
We did.
And the first one, because talking about cash is, you know, you were paying Anthony, you were doing all these things. So I, without anybody's knowledge, I'm pretty sure it stayed between us 2, because I actually talked to Leo about this, and I think he said he didn't know.
Yeah.
As you know, I helped pay for half of it. Yeah. To make it, you know, I'm like,
absolutely.
You know, and it's just, it was one of those things where I'm like, hey, I believe in the project. So I think that made me, it kind of stung more. It was a little more bitter for me to like, to see no results from not from the music video, but just see less shows, not seeing the album come out. I'm like, what's going on? You know?
Absolutely. And as soon as I'm able to, I'm still gonna pay you back. So
no, it's all. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, when COVID was going down, I was like, yo, I could really use that money. But hey, man, yeah, I know. But hey, man, we're all struggling, man. But the thing is, like, we just got to look out for each other. It is what it is, man. Like, don't ever. This is for everybody. Listen, don't ever lend money unless you expect to never get it back.
Yeah,
you know,
no, for sure.
So, yeah, and I mean, those music videos were cool. It was fun and everything, and we did our thing. Yeah. It is what it is. And so what are your plans moving forward? Because we're reaching just over an hour, so...
Yeah, so wow, I can't believe it's been an hour. This has been fun. Thank you for having me, Dan.
Man, it's my pleasure, man.
It's been a good conversation.
Mm-hmm. And we had a great conversation prior, too. a little deeper into what's currently going on as of this recording, you know, because Biden won, and we were just talking about everything going on and whatnot, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think my plans moving forward is, this album's pretty much finished. There's just some like programming and mix stuff. I need to start doing all of the visual stuff and like not really going super hard into music videos. I think my plan now is to really just get a really good brand pitch, get like basically like the album cover, get like, you know, like the bio, get everything as me as this new artist as Tre Nixon, like what is going to set me apart from the other people, and really just having like an entire like a pitch deck of like who I am as an artist, having this album done. It's and just having that, and then really sending that to just trying to email those to, you know, different labels and see what happens. Like there was, when I did one of the cool things when I did the Native Soul thing is I sent out, I think like 400 to 500 emails to basically just, it was insane. I was really working super hard when I did that EP.
You hear that, people? This is the kind of shit musicians have to go through. Like on top of being autistic and sitting in a room for 8 hours a day.
Yeah,
we gotta do this shit.
Yeah, I sent out like 400 to 500 emails regarding the regarding the EP and stuff like that. And I got two, and just to basically anybody in the music industry, from label reps to fucking to A&Rs to anyone. And
to the janitor.
Yeah, to the janitor.
Yo, man, sneak this into this office, bro. You got the keys.
Exactly. And I basically got I got two responses. I got one from the Imagine Dragons manager, and I got one from... I
remember when you got that.
Yeah, and then one from the 21 Pilots manager. And they both were just like, we're not really looking for people, but thank you so much. And just the fact that I got responses from people of that, you know, in that, like, at that caliber, I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. So never underestimate and I think now the fact that I have a really, really unique, genuine project that's complete, it's a full album. I just know who I am a lot more than I did when I was 23, when I was 22, 23. I'm a lot more confident in the way I'm able to, you know, just portray myself as an artist, as a business person in every aspect.
Yeah, and I mean, the people that you were working with before, I'm sure, you know, nobody has hard feelings for you. Because, I mean, I know everybody in the band, you know, so I'm like, when things open up, they'd be more than willing to come back. You know?
Of course, and
do whatever.
I miss
hang.
Yeah, no, I miss playing with everybody so much. Like that's my biggest thing. I feel like is missing from my life. Just, you know, being able to play like live music again, and like even like we played those songs so many times, but even just now, there are a couple songs that we've never played on that are on the record that we never played live.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I completely agree with that, because I mean, for me, I was just kind of like,
and I have a bunch more songs written we could play. So
there we go.
Yeah,
but for me, it was just like, just to add to your point, I played a gig not too long ago in Malibu that was like for some sort of like live video, like music video. You know, they just record you playing the song for them and they post it. Blah blah blah. You know how it goes. Yeah. And I was playing alongside with the celloist, and you know, you have the vocalist, and I was just like, oh yeah, I miss this.
Yeah, you're right.
You know? But it's like I've just been sinking that feeling, because I'm like, hey, I know people in the music industry who've played for big artists and hear their opinions, and I know what's going on, and I'm just I don't see much of a future for like the gigs and stuff. But I mean, that doesn't mean I don't want to create or do that. It's just I need to find other means to sustain myself.
Exactly.
On top of wanting to start a family, now that I'm 26, I'm starting to get those ideas in my head. I'm like, I need to start working towards that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think at the core of it, just us as musicians, like, no matter what, like people, especially like us living in LA and wanting to make a career out of all these things, just like, I think at the core of it, we're just fucking kids who want to play fucking music. Yeah, it's like at the core of it, like, and no, that's it. And like, if we have a little audience, great. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like that's what gives me the most joy, being able to, like, I'll play, you know, we haven't been able to play shows, so I've been playing, you know, I'll play these songs in front of my like girlfriend, and like she, you know, she's just like, these are like really good songs. Like, I really enjoy you like playing these songs, like, not because she's my girlfriend, because she's like, this is good, you know, and it's crazy. So it's like, and just for an audience of one, I'm like, anything, just being able to like express ourselves, I feel like that's what makes us musicians. And it's not the money, it's not anything like that, it's just we love it.
And I think on that note, it's a good place to stop.
Absolutely.
So this has been another episode of the DP podcast, and I'd like to thank my guest Tre Nixon for joining me today. Man, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thanks, man. Peace out.